Hello everyone. So I am Chawadon Ketkaew from Chiang Mai University, Thailand. So my topic today is a comparison between speech and musical rhythms, a case study of folk music instead and modern time. So like here, my presentation consists of 4 parts. That is background of the study, then methodology, result, and then discussion. So let's start with the background of this study. As you know, musicologists and linguists have often suggested that the prosody of a culture's spoken language can influence the structure of its instrumental music. However, empirical data supporting this idea have been lacking. This has been due to the difficulty of developing and applying comparative quantitative measures to melody and rhythm in speech and music. So some of you might like know it before, like at first, different of languages are categorized in terms of straight timing and syllable timing. For straight time languages like English and German, the interval of straight syllable is equal, while the syllable time languages like French and Spanish, the duration of every syllable is equal. However, some scholars argue that the term straight timing or syllable timing is not an absolute, but rather a continuum, allowing languages to be described as more or less straight bases. Then some scholars claim that languages labeled as straight time allow complex consonant cluster, leading to higher variation of consonant cluster and vowel reduction, leading to higher variation of vocalic intervals. And then the observation is then solved by NPVI equation, as you may see in the slide here in the equation like NPVI here. Uh, it is like the equation like developed by Low in 2002. So they presented a measure of temporal patterning in speech used for comparing straight time and syllable time language by calculating the degree of durational contrast between successive elements in the sequence. Then like the work of Patia and Daniel in 2003, then they applied the equation into their work to compare the rhythmic property in music and language. So like they use NPVI measurements to compare the variability of like musical note duration in classical music. Since it is a relative measure of variability, for example, like the durational difference between each pair of intervals is measured relative to the average length of the pair, and musical tones represented by notes, just like vowel in speech, are considered as a core unit in a rhythmic pattern. In their study, like they compare a set of recorded English and French sentences with musical theme taken from instrumental pieces of classic 19th century composer, like and like the speed NPV value they obtained from recordings of 20 new like utterance in English and French, and from musical NPV value they obtained directly from musical notation, and there were like 137 English and 181 French musical themes from 19th and 20th century classical music or musical nationalism. So in that study, they focus on instrumental music only. So here are like the result of that study. And you may notice, and you may see from the graph here, the NPVI obtained from English and French speed. English speed have higher NPVI value compared to French speed. And in the same format for NPVI that obtained from English and French music. English music yield more NPVI value than French music. So in conclusion, in that like study, they say that okay, so like uh, the music and speed in terms of the rhythm has some kind of relationship, have some relationship, something like they can have an influence on them. And moreover, like in cognitive study, like I told you, they focus exclusively on instrumental classical music. They said that if music is made on words and words have different rhythmic property in the languages under study, then it would be no surprise if musical rhythm reflected linguistic rhythm. And here in my like previous study, so I want to examine whether like the claim from Pater and Daniel is true or not. So like with my colleagues, so like we examine 10 popular songs in Standard and Northern Thai and see whether popular song would yield the same result as Pater and Daniel in 2002, like that they make a claim or not. And like the result, however, show that the NPY value obtained from speech and music in Standard and Northern Thai were not compatible. The NPY values obtained from Standard Thai speech was higher than the Northern Thai NPVI. But in music, the NPVI obtained from those two dialects were opposite to the NPVI obtained from speech. To be specific, the average musical NPVI value of the Northern Thai in my previous study is a bit lower than average linguistic NPVI value obtained from the speech. And however, this is not the case for standard Thai, since like the average musical NPVI value is much lower than the average linguistic NPVI value. The results from my like previous study does not support like the Pater and Daniel claim that spoken prosody will leave an imprint on the music of the culture. And from our observation, music chong might have an influence on NPI values, and the melody of some northern type of song that are analyzed in my previous study were adapted from northern Thai folk song rhythm, of which could be similar to speed rhythm. As a result, the musical and linguistic NPI value in northern Thai are not much different. So like here from my previous study, so like it denied so many like observation from Patrick and Daniel, like for example, like maybe like is not just the word that has some kind of like the influence on like the relationship between like music and speed rhythm. Also like the song might have some kind of like the effect on like the relationship between like speech and music rhythm. So like here in my study, so I want to prove whether the song can affect the rhythmic similarity of two languages. Like here, folk music with lyrics in both Standard Thai and Northern Thai were examined. Okay, before like I go to like the methodology, so I want to talk about like Standard Thai, Northern Thai a bit before like we go further like in the result of our methodology. And here, if we talk about the Standard Thai, so in terms of property, so Standard Thai is considered as a straight time language according to the Gap Law 2002, using NPVI value to calculate and compare to many languages shown in like in the picture here. And next, the Northern Thai from my colleagues show that like Northern Thai, as you can see from the picture here, is considered like a more syllable time language. And then if we talk about a folk and popular song here, like the characteristic of like a folk song in Thai, folk song related to people lifestyle, play, dance, and ceremony, and they are performed as an entertainment connection with the harvest season, Buddhist festival, or passing on some morals to the next generation. That should be like the characteristic of the folk song in Thai. So like here, the folk song may like vary according to the regions. So if the folk song, if they are sung in like in the central part of Thailand, so they are sung with a standard Thai. But if they are sung in the northern region of Thailand, so they are sung with a northern Thai language. So in the same way as a popular song, so as you, like as the name suggests here, popular music for Thai popular music is quite similar to Western popular music, and in Thai pop song it can be further classified into many subgenres such as pop, pop rock, alternative pop music. So like for the northern Thai popular song, so some of like the people within the northern region, so they call them as like a Peng Kamburang, are similar to standard Thai pop song but are sung in northern Thai. Okay, so let's talk about the methodology of this study. So we talk about like the material first, and here it 10 standard Thai folk song and 10 northern Thai folk song uh, were randomly selected from various composers, like and the speech and PVI value both in standard Thai and northern Thai came from the previous study, and also like the popular NPI from popular music came from my previous study as well. And for like folk song here, the whole song was analyzed um, as we believe that it would represent the rhythmic characteristic of the song better than only the chorus or theme of the song. And the musical phrases were also phases parallel to the sympathetic boundaries, as you can see from like at the picture here. And each note were given a duration according to the time signature of each song. So here's like some example of like the analysis. Like I may notice that like the last word will omit because like we want to avoid the lengthening effects in each musical boundary. And the result of my study here, so according to the previous study, and you may see from like the graph here, the average NPY value of standard Thai speech is higher than that of northern Thai speech. However, the average of NPVI value of standard Thai pop song from the previous study were found to be lower than that of northern Thai pop song. But if you look at like the folk song here, in the same format as in speech, the musical NPVI in standard Thai folk song was higher than that of northern Thai folk songs, and the musical NPVI of the two were found to be statistically significant. So like the result here support like some might claim that like the genre can like affect the relationship between like speech and musical rhythm in language. Okay, so again, so that should be like my conclusion here. So like the song is a crucial factor that can interfere with the association between rhythm in speech and music. Okay, so that should be like my last part in my presentation here. So like so from my observation from the pilot study here, it is found in this study that even though the songs are categorized in the same genre, like folk song, the variation is still high. Like for example, like playing lam tone or and one of my song here. So like they provide some kind of the highest NPVI like 81.91, whereas Peng Choi, another song in standard Thai folk song, provide the least NPVI value like the 36. This difference can be like account for different in the period of origin. For example, like I told you, Peng Lam Tone, which is the highest NPY value in like in the standard Thai folk song. It is popular after World War II, while the origin of Peng Choi, which is the lowest NPY value, can be tracked back to King Lama 5 era or like 1868. And so here, in my observation here, if the NPY can capture the similarities between speech and music rhythm, so like the future study may examine like the song from different time period to see whether the rhythmic characteristic vary or not, and it may serve as some kind of like the supporting evidence for the change of speed rhythm over the time. Okay, so that should be like of my like pilot study here about like the relationship between like speech and music rhythm like within the dialect. So hope you enjoy my presentation. Okay, thanks so much for watching.